Good morning, everybody. Oh, it is so nice to be here on this Saturday. The weather outside is windy and cloudy, but internally I am not feeling that way. I'm feeling optimistic, and I'm feeling like today I will be able to really focus on the things that I need to accomplish, but also enjoy some quiet time and indulge in some much needed rest and reading. So I thought I would start off today with going over my current reads as well as a book review for the book that I just finished. So let's talk about what I just finished to start off. I just read The Virgin Cure by Amy McKay. And this is an author who actually is currently living in Nova Scotia, Canada, which is really nice. That's actually why I decided to pick up the book. And I just love when authors are living in Canada or from Canada. Just makes me feel like I'm reading something that's a little bit of, more homely. However, this book is based in New York City in the year 1872. And so I was really excited about reading a novel during the Guild era in the States, when lots of development was happening, and particularly New York City was just rumbling with with lots of different happenings. And so this book had the setting that I was really craving at the time. And this author, just to give you a little bit of background, has also been an author. Her first novel is called The Birth House, and this is her second novel that she's written. And I also own The Birth House, and I will most likely read that in the next coming months. This story follows a girl named Moth, who is 12 years old. And originally we see that she's living with her mother, who is known as a gypsy. Her business is to have people come into her home, and she tells them, she does palmistry, she tells them their fortune, they look in a crystal ball, and that's how they make their money to be able to survive. However, they live on the street called the Bowery, or the Bowery, and it is a very, very poor street. All of their neighbors are very poor, and it is not uncommon for people to die very suddenly from illnesses and diseases just because it is just so poor on that street. And so the story follows Moth, who acquires her name from her father, who is no longer in the picture, and we're essentially learning about her 13th year on this earth, and how she went through a lot of hardships. Kind of in the middle of the story, where the main plot line really comes into play, is when Moth moves into a house with a woman named Miss Everett, who essentially her business is what they call a almost whorehouse. Excuse my language. So she takes Moth in under the assumption, if you will, that she's actually 15 years old, which is the age of consent at this time, and she is essentially preparing Moth to become a prostitute. So she's, showering her in really nice clothing. She's giving her lessons on how to properly compose herself and carry herself in public so that men will find her appealing. And all with the intention, after a month of being in this house, to eventually find a man who is willing to pay a lot of money to take Moth's virginity, because that is considered to be very sought after. Men want to be there to take young girls' virginities, and that is something they'll pay a high price for. So we follow Moth through this, and she encounters other girls who are in this house, obviously, and she befriends some, and grows to dislike some, and she also kind of goes on this path of trying to understand what it is to actually love somebody and actually feel like there's somebody that won't leave you. And she has always grappled in her whole life with struggling to feel like people are actually doing things for her out of the goodness of their heart, and so she's kind of grappling with all these things at a young age, also under the pretense that she's eventually going to be having sex for the first time at such a young age for money. So she's happy on one side with the fact that she's lavish and like she's given all of these riches, but on the other side she doesn't know why she has to let go of who she really is in order to accomplish this. So the story is very easy to read, I shouldn't say straightforward, it's easy to read. There's some nice twists and turns that don't leave you feeling like too freaked out that the storyline has changed paths. But I did find that there was just like an exorbitant amount of happenings in this year for her. And I felt like it all happened very quickly, which could have been plausible for sure. And obviously I'm reading like a loosely based historical fiction, so I can't expect it to be like reality necessarily. But I did find that we met a bunch, like at the beginning we met some characters who then disappeared, and then in the middle we met some characters who like sort of carried on to the end. So it was, it was easy enough read, but there was kind of a lot of different moving parts. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. The ending felt like it was a nice bow, bow to tie up the ending. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. So it was just a nice, easy read. I gave it a 3-star on Goodreads. So that's what I just finished. Now let's talk about what I am reading. It is a number of books, and some of them I've been reading for a while because they're more my read a passage here and there sort of books. So first thing is I'm reading Wicca, a guide for the solitary practitioner by Scott Cunningham. This is my kind of like self-study book. So I've become really interested in Wicca and witchcraft, and so I've been reading this book for a number of months now, just kind of going at my own pace. Obviously you can see that I've been like taking notes and stuff like that, and so I'm about halfway through maybe. Actually, you know what, on Goodreads I think it says I'm like 33% through, so I'm kind of going through it and just starting to grasp the understanding of the religion of Wicca, and it really resonates with me, so I'm really enjoying this read. I would definitely recommend it if you're somebody who's interested in learning about kind of the starting point to which, understanding a little bit of the history of Wicca, but also looking to incorporate it into your life. There's some very practical features that Scott Cunningham introduces in this book, so I enjoy it a lot. Next, another one that I'm kind of just reading every so often, kind of sporadically, is called When We Are Bold, When Women Who Turn Our Upside Down World Right. And I actually got this book maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. I went to a book reading, and there were a number of women who wrote passages in this book who were on a panel, and so we were there and we were discussing, feminism and how to boost morality so that women can feel empowered to speak and to know that they don't have to feel in danger when they use their voices. And so it was a super inspirational book reading, and I thoroughly enjoyed the panel discussion. And I ended up purchasing the book, and I got some signatures from some of the women. Actually, I think I got a signature from every woman. Yeah. Okay, wow, this one has a date. So it looks like I went to this thing on, I went to this book reading on September 27th, 2016. So, so yeah, that's awesome, wow. Aww. So anyways, so I've been reading this, and it's short stories, or essays if you will, about so it's essays written by women about women. So the author often has, some sort of story themselves, however they are writing about somebody in their lives or somebody whom they've shown interest in who has changed the course of their lives. Does this make sense? So for example, so the first one I read, and there's a foreword by Brene Brown, which is really cool. Okay, so for example, the first one, it is an essay about Jane Addams, who was a peace activist, suffragist, and an advocate for labor rights, civil rights, and free speech. But the essay is written by Louise W. Knight. So it's a woman writing a story about another woman who's been important in history, who maybe hasn't had enough airtime. So I really like this. I'll read an essay at a time just to really feel inspired by these women's words and by the actions of these women and how they've tried to advance society to understand that we are strong, courageous forces. So I'm reading that, and I'm going very slowly. The next book that I have on the go is another one that I will often pick up after I've done my morning meditation or a little bit of yoga, just to give me a little bit more diving into a little bit more of introspection. And this one is called The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself by Michael A. Singer. Oh wow, it's very bright, the cover shines. This one sort of bothers me sometimes. Other times I find it very accurate, but sometimes I find it accurate, other times I find it frustrating. And it comes back to the fact that it is very non-scientific. And I often find that the author is referring to things that are actually not factual. And believe me, I'm not somebody who needs science to prove something for me. I believe in the universe without there being any proof. I believe in greater forces without there being any proof of it, per se. However, I just find Michael Singer is oversimplifying how difficult it actually is to be introspective. And he often uses words like simply or you just have to. And those kinds of little trigger words like just and simple and simply rub me the wrong way ever since I did my yoga teacher training. And we learned that you never oversimplify descriptions of a movement because not everybody thinks it's simple or just easy. So I often don't gravitate well towards passages or words that, or like sentences that, you know, use that kind of terminology. And so I've kind of been struggling with it here and there. I do find that he comes across with some, you know, some accurate depictions of how I feel about myself, and you know how I, you know, he says things about how, you know, you just need to let it go, and I understand that on a certain level. Yes, that's exactly what I need to do. However, it's much more complicated than that, and so I'm not this is not, I don't recommend picking up this book if you're looking to change your life. Like, sure, it's interesting, but I wouldn't, like, as somebody who's read numerous self-help books and numerous self-development books, this is not the one I would pick up. Yeah. Wow, I don't like being harsh about books, but I'm just being honest. So yeah, so I'm gonna, like, I'll obviously get through it. I've had this book maybe like 8 years, and I've tried getting through it before and I just haven't. So this time around, like, I find like I'm at a really good point in my life where I feel like I want some more cues for introspection, and so and I'm willing to like get past the fact that the writing isn't great to kind of get to the core of it. So yeah, so I'm going through that one slowly. The main book I'm reading, which is super exciting, I'm reading it on my iPad, and it is called, it was actually recommended by another YouTuber called Emmy. I watched one of her videos recently, and she was going through this novel, and it is called, I just want to make sure I'm saying it properly and saying the author. I'm reading, ooh. Oh dear. I'm reading Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton, and it is a fantasy novel, which is super exciting for me because I've not invested in fantasy in a very long time. I think the last fantasy books that I read were probably when I was like early high school, and it was the series that I still hold near and dear to my heart, Shiver, Linger, and Forever, by Maggie Stiefvater. Love those novels, and I actually was reading them pretty recently, kind of like rereading them. But since then, I have not like gone into that world in a very long time. And so when this one was recommended by Emmy, she was like thoroughly enjoying it. I thought, you know what, may as well. And guys, it was $3.43, like $3.43 to download it from Amazon, like to your Kindle app. I was like, how can I say no to that? $3.43 for a book? Hells to the yeah. And I think it's a series. And the next couple, I think it's a trilogy, and the next 2 books are also very inexpensive. So yeah, so I think, was one of them even $0 maybe? Maybe, I'll have to go check. But yeah, so I've started reading this, I'm 13% through, and I'm really, really enjoying it so far. It's bringing you into the world of just so many, like, fantasy characters. Like, there's nymphs and fairies and goblins, and like I'm only through like the first few chapters, and there's already been like, you know, talk of all this, and so I'm very excited to be reading it. And from what I'm gathering, the storyline is about a girl named Fortuna Sworn who is one of the like she is the last of her kind, and they're called nightmares, so that she can touch somebody and get a sense of their deepest, darkest fears, and she can like actually like create those fears, like she can like materialize them for somebody, like not in real life, but she can make somebody think that they're experiencing these things. And so the storyline, from what I'm gathering, is her brother Damon has been missing for 2 years. She has no idea where he went. He left a note one day to say that he was in his garden, and then the next day she woke up and he was nowhere to be found. So she spent the last 2 years of her life kind of going through the motions, going to work, coming home, paying the bills, but then also like constantly pondering where her brother could be. And so the story kind of brings us into her having the opportunity to potentially uncover where he is, and she's found out that he's alive, but she has to do some things that she's like not really sure if she wants to do in order to figure out where he is and how he is. So yeah, super exciting. And already within the first couple of chapters, there was already like an almost sex scene, which is three thumbs up. If I could do 3, I would do 3 thumbs up for me, because I love that kind of stuff. Is that weird to say? No, it's not weird to say. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I really just want to keep reading it like as we speak, but I must restrain myself. Speaking on that subject, it's been a long time since a book has, like, I love reading, and I'll, like when I'm feeling in the mood to read, I'll pick up a book and love it. However, it's been a while since I've been gravitated towards like ditching other things to read, like ditching schoolwork, or not doing the dishes so that I can continue to read. It's been a while since I've felt like that, so I'm very excited that this book is making me feel that way. Yeah, okay, so that was my little review of my past reads, my current reads, and I'm just going to keep you guys updated with how things are progressing throughout the day and throughout the weekend, because it's Saturday. I'm going to read today, I'm going to read tomorrow. Life is good with books. When books are involved, life is good. Good morning. It is Monday, and today is the day that I'm going to be ending off this video, my little reading weekend vlog. However, I am going out and picking up a book from the library today, which is super exciting. I have not picked up a book from the library since I moved from Ottawa, which was almost a year ago. So that's crazy. So I'm really excited to go. It's actually at the library on my university campus, and I don't get to go to university campus often, actually ever. So I'm really excited to walk over there. It's super close to where I live. So I'm going to be doing that at 10, and I'm going to be starting my schoolwork at 9, and it's currently 8:21. I just threw a bunch of numbers at you. So I'm going to eat my breakfast, do a little bit of reading, and then get to do some schoolwork before I head out to get that book. So I finished the first novel in the Fortuna Sworn series called Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. I finished it in one day. It was just about 300 pages, so not lengthy, but surprising enough to me because I am not somebody who binge reads. I don't often have the stamina to sit for long periods of time and read. So I was very surprised with how quickly I wanted to get through this novel. And I really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4.25 stars out of 5. And the reason I'm docking some marks is because the writing isn't the best I've ever seen. And so the storyline was interesting, and I'm really happy to be reading a fantasy novel, or a fantasy series rather. So those things were really exciting, and obviously I got through the book really quickly because I enjoyed, I was enjoying the content, but I did find that things happened at such a quick pace, and there were some times that I had to like go back and reread the passage to actually get a understanding of what was happening, just because everything was happening so quickly. But the characters are really interesting, and I'd like to, hope that we dive deeper in the next couple novels into, we unpack a little bit more of why, why Colith is the way he is, and why Laurie is the way he is, and, get a little bit more of background on the two courts. So, and obviously I want to see where the relationship between Fortuna and between Colith go. That would be really exciting, and I also, I'm curious about what happened to Oliver. So yeah, there's lots of things to look forward to in the next couple of novels. I've started the second one, Restless. It's called Restless, Slumber, which is the second book in this series, and I'm on chapter 4. So I've gone through the first few chapters, and so that's kind of what I'm up to now. The book that I'm picking up is actually a book by Deborah Harkness, which is super exciting. So I'm going to be starting another fantasy series. It's the All Souls trilogy. Wow, I said that weird. The All Souls trilogy. So I'm getting the first novel in that series. I've heard such great things, and there's a show now actually on Prime. I think it's on Prime, called The Discovery of Witches, which is based on her books. So I don't suspect that I'll watch the show anytime soon, or if ever, but I am excited to be reading a novel that people think is good enough to put into a show. So I'm gonna have a couple of fantasy novels on the go, which is totally fine with me considering it's been so long since I've read fantasy. So I don't think I'm gonna get sick of it anytime soon. I'll be able to get through these two series probably pretty smoothly without feeling like I need to read anything else. However, as you saw the other day, I have lots of other books on the go anyways, so if I do get sick and tired of reading about fairies and about nightmares, then I do have some other opportunities to bring me back, I guess, into reality. I just got back from my walk that ended up being much longer than I anticipated. The campus library that I was going to was like maybe a 15 to 20 minute walk away from my place, which is very reasonable. So I'm on my way, and about halfway there I pull up my phone because I have barely been to campus and I wasn't sure exactly where on campus the the library was, and it's quite a large campus, so I didn't want to, get lost. But in the meantime, even though I had Google Maps open, I still got lost because it was directing me in the wrong direction. I think it just was misoriented. It didn't know what direction I was actually going in. So I had to put away Google Maps and I had to think to myself, okay, I know it's in the center of campus, around the center of campus, so I'm just gonna go gravitate towards that region. So I ended up finding it. And they were only open for book pickup between 10 a.m. and noon, and I left at 11, and I only got there at 11:40 to pick up this stupid book. No, I shouldn't say stupid book. I'm very excited about the book. But yeah, so it took me much longer than planned. However, I do have the book, A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I'm very excited about it, and they're lending out books for like 120 days or something like that. I only have to return this book by June 29th, I think she told me. So I have lots of time to read it. I'll probably wait to read it until... Sorry, I thought I just saw a name that was just going to make me laugh. Distractions. So I'm probably going to wait to read it once I finish the Fortuna Sworn series that I'm going through right now, which will probably be within the next couple of weeks, maybe even within a week, depending. The only issue that I'm kind of like nervous about, it's like in pretty bad shape. And not to say that I'm bad with books, like look at this. I'm not bad with books, but like, oh my God, it's like hanging on by a thread. Oh, what should I do? I don't want to get in trouble. I'm just gonna have to be super careful. I'm gonna have to like read it with my hand, like cupping the spine. Anyways, yeah, so I only have to return it in June, which is fantastic. I have it for the rest of this semester and more, and I'm very sure that I'll most likely be handing it in, much sooner than the due date. So that's my little update. I've picked up another book on the go, another book in the repertoire. I've got so many books that I own that I have not read yet, but I'm just waiting for the right feeling. You gotta feel the essence of a book before you start it, or else you're not gonna enjoy it, even if it's the most well-written book ever. Even if it's the book that was intended to change your entire world, you have to be in the mood for it, I think at least. So, yes, that is my spiel. Time to eat lunch. If you hear that little ticking in the background, that's because my toast is in the toaster, waiting to get toasted so that I can make a sandwich. Nom nom nom. Sandwich time.